Hi, and welcome back to the positive side with Lar and Shar. I'm Larry Rifkin. Sitting beside me is Sharon. And today we're going to talk about things that we take for granted. We've spoken in the past about gratitude and being thankful for what we have. But a lot of times we don't put everything into it because we take them for granted.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand.
Absolutely. And I know when we do our gratifications and we talk about the big things, sometimes we forget about them. And I think we both know that one of the reasons for this topic today is the fact that I have one of my boys is having some health issues.
Well, and because I hurt my foot over the weekend, and
Well,
and I can't put a shoe on right now, and I can't put my weight on my foot, and I thought about it this morning. I was like, wow, our feet, just taking for granted what our feet do for us, where they take us, you know, how they hold us up. And for what's going on with Larry's son, breathing. Breathing. We don't even think about it.
not at all. And we take so many of the blessings in our lives for granted. I have been doing my affirmations and gratitude talks to the universe and my angels for years. And I never put in there anything about transportation until my car had an issue and I had to take it in, and all of a sudden I realized, you know, we take even things like this for granted. We don't think about it. We get into our car, we go wherever we go, and we don't realize, you know, what a blessing it is. For me, I happen to work here in the studio, which is 10 miles from where I live. You don't think about, you know, I'm so blessed that I have a way of getting here every day and getting back.
Yeah, let me amp it up. The statistic out there now is that if you have a roof over your head, a bed to sleep in, and food in your refrigerator, get this, you are better than 85% of the population.
Of the world's population,
Yeah.
that is correct.
85%. That's frightening. This is 2013, and there are people, 85%, who do not have a roof over their head, some type of food in their refrigerator, or a bed to sleep on.
Some type of food in their belly. Some
Yeah.
of them don't even have a refrigerator.
So, how often do we take that for granted? How many times have we lived in houses, or do we live in houses right now, that have rooms that we never even set foot in? Like, you never even walk into it. My parents had a room like that. It was the living room. The living room and the dining room. Those two rooms were like sacred. Like, you, as a kid, you couldn't even put your foot in there unless it was a holiday or a special occasion.
And people were over in company, and otherwise, not only was it cordoned off and weren't allowed to go into it, but then there was that plastic on all the furniture because
I gotta tell you, I'm gonna put it out there, folks. I'm gonna be 49 next month, and I'm gonna tell you that I believe it was in my 20s when I was finally felt mid-20s, when I finally felt comfortable just to walk into that room. And I still take my shoes off now. But I mean, you know, we have so many blessings in our lives that we vision. You know, these are readers. I have a battle with these readers. I had to own that I have to wear them now because I cannot see like I used to see, and am called blind by some people.
From
He borrows them, folks.
You know,
I'm just telling you.
there are such things, and so many of the basic things we take for granted. We happen to be here, Sharon and I,
Water.
in Florida, in Sarasota, Florida. And we had a storm the other night. It only lasted about an hour and a half or 2 hours, but it came down. And I sat there, and I don't know why I started thinking about the fact that I was so glad that I had a roof over my head. You know, and just shelter from the storm. I know that's a Doors song, but it really was just shelter from the storm, being inside.
The electronics in our lives, just over the last 10 years, 5 years, it's been booming, but over the last 10 years, the computers, the cell phones, all of that allows us in an instant to connect with somebody. Whereas, not going back too long ago, the people that actually had a mobile phone, it was this big and it looked like this huge thing, and the cost of it. All of those things that make our lives so much easier, I have to say, consciously thinking about it makes me grateful. But when I don't, it's like, if your battery goes down on your computer or whatever, it's like, even if it's just for a minute, because we're so used to having everything like that.
Instant gratification. Instant gratification.
But that's interesting that you use that word. Because are we grateful for it? Or do we look past it?
Or do we take it for granted? I will tell you that I am very diligent and I'm very disciplined on my talks to the universe and on my talks to the angels and God and who I do my talks to, my higher spirits.
You've got a direct connection.
I do. Very blessed.
As we all do.
As we all do. And I know that in mine, that the longer that I do it, the more that I add into it, but still very superficially, and it's one of the first things that I say, because I sincerely and specifically thank you for my good health, my well-being, and then I say my boy's good health, and that's it. And then I go on to the next thing, and I say what I'm thankful for. But we need to sit down, and when we, in spirituality, we talk about stilling our mind and listening and doing all of that and paying attention and living in the moment. And a lot of the things that we do in the moment, we take for granted and we don't show gratitude for.
We take each other for granted.
Well, you take me for granted, by the way.
We take relationships with other people in our lives for granted, with other, and not even just other people. I shared with somebody the other day, there's a cat that has adopted me. I call him George. He's the condo cat. And in the morning, I'm now feeding him. But in the morning, he'll come in and he'll greet me. He'll be the first thing that greets me in the morning right now, because I get up really early. The sun is not up yet. Let's just put it that way. He'll come in. I'm making my coffee. He'll come in. He'll eat out of the bowl. And he'll take like a couple of bites, and I'll be by the coffee maker, and he'll come up and just brush against my leg and then go back and eat. I love that moment. It is like I've learned to recognize, I can't believe I'm getting emotional over this, but recognize that in a way that's him connecting with me to say thank you. And it really has impacted me.
Absolutely, and I think that one of the things that we want to do is notice these moments, and again, live in the moment and appreciate it. Absolutely, and this also helps your spiritual health, because it helps your well-being, and when you're feeling better and in a state of well-being, everything can be looked at with a little bit better situation.
Yeah, well-being is, I think we just assume, we wake up and, my eyes are going to open, my feet are going to hit the floor, I'm going to have a good day today. And for many people, we don't think about it. We don't think that when somebody goes out the door, that the last thing that we say to them might be the last thing that we say to them. We don't think about the benefits of feeding ourselves with good things, filling ourselves up with water. How easy is it for us to get water?
Water? Oh, I didn't know what you were saying.
All of that, it creates the well-being within this amazing body that we have. Just this body alone, our hands, what they do, our nails, we don't think about it. So much of us is unconscious. Our nails just grow, we don't think about it. Our hair just grows, we don't think about it. What we're trying to say here is be grateful and be conscious for every moment of the day, and take the time. It doesn't have to be all in one day, but take the time to be grateful and to pay attention to what it is that's in your life. What books are coming into your life? You know, who talked to you today? Who did you pass and not recognize? Who did you give a hug to today? Who did you say I love you today to? All of these things matter, and many of us at one point or another in the day take something for granted. So the reason for this today, again, we're both dealing on a personal level with some health things, myself with my foot, and Larry with his son, and breath and breath. Try to hold your breath for 1 minute. Just hold it and see what happens to you. See how you start to feel. Breath. We don't even think about it. So that was the crux of why we decided we were going to talk about this today. But as we talk about it, there's a part of me that looks around, and I'm feeling gratitude just by thinking about some of the things that I take for granted in my life. Myself personally.
Yes, we do take all these things for granted on a personal level. We don't even think about a lot of them as you talk about just the amazing things about our body. The fact that I can go get a glass of water anytime I want, and I don't have to worry about drinking it. It's because we don't have to worry because of where we live that the water's going to be dirty. You know, again, walking outside, and I know I'm a transplant here in Florida from New Jersey. I walk outside and I see the palm trees, and that's usually when I start my gratification with the beauty that's around me, the nature that's around me. I think a lot of it comes down to in the spiritual practice of, again, living in the moment. And taking and realizing all the blessings that we have around us, and stilling our mind. Our studios here are in a beautiful building, and we don't appreciate these things. And I don't mean to say that we don't appreciate, because I know we do appreciate them. But we don't recognize that we appreciate it, and we're not grateful for it.
Take it for granted.
We take it for granted. It comes to, again, you know, simple things, food on our table, transportation to get us around, clean air that we breathe, beautiful coasts that we live on. Anything that we have, we need to slow down, recognize the gifts that are in our life, accept them, and once you do, Sharon said something that was, at first I thought a little bit controversial. I think you said that gratitude is the opposite of taking something for granted. When you stop taking something for granted, it's replaced with gratitude and appreciation. And it took me a minute for that to sink in, because that's a pretty profound statement. But I think you might be right. When we start recognizing these things and we're no longer taking them for granted, appreciation and gratitude does fill it. And I'm thinking right now about all the things that I'm grateful for. And it does, I mean, even everything. The fact that we do have eyesight, and we are able to taste foods, and we are able to hear people. These are things that we take for granted. Absolutely. If we start to recognize these things and realize that they are gifts, and that we are taking them for granted, maybe not consciously, because we're not even thinking about it. But when we do still our mind, when we do live in the moment and we do think about it, all of a sudden the things that we take for granted, as a very wise woman just said, that taking it for granted is replaced with appreciation and with gratitude. So we want to take notice of all the things around us.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a profound statement, but it's actually a feeling. Like I've recognized it as a feeling of when I'm conscious of the simple things in life. It almost, like, I feel it. Like, I'm like, oh God, I'm so grateful. I so appreciate, and it feels good. It makes you feel good. And once you start being that way, then you recognize all of the little things. You start to hear things and recognize all the little things.
And the key word that you use there is recognize these. And I think that's what moves it out of taking something for granted and appreciating it, is recognizing it. And, again, let's start with our feet and walking. How many times do we take that for granted? But you and I just walked in the past couple of weeks down to see Nick Valenda cross 41 on the high wire.
Yeah.
We just took it for granted. We were able to walk there and walk back almost no problems.
Almost.
Yeah, almost. But we don't think about that. The clothes that we wear. We're blessed, especially here in the United States. And there are areas even here that we take these things for granted.
School, I mean,
yes.
School, I mean, if you think about it, I saw a comic the other night, and this was one of the things that made me laugh. She was talking about, she had a child, and the first day of school, she brought her child to school, and walked up, and they I guess on the first day of school they say, okay, you stay here and let them go there, and she broke down crying, and she was like, really? There's a place that I can take them for the whole day?
For free.
You're gonna take them for free? So it's just those little things that we're so programmed by media and society, all walks of society now, we're literally programmed to take things for granted. I believe that, and I think one of the things that makes me more aware is I don't watch a lot of TV. I made that decision probably about 3.5 years ago. There are some channels that I watch. I love the History Channel. I love to learn. I love to learn. What I'm recognizing now when I watch these shows is also what I learned when I was in grammar school and high school. It no longer is that anymore. There's a lot of new science out there. There's a lot of new evidence out there of humanity and where we come from, and the universe and the different solar systems and the different universes that are out there. All of this information and wisdom is out there now, and people take it for granted because they don't spend the time to re-educate themselves. I thrive on it.
I agree, and I also do, but I will tell you that at every point in human history, there have been things that the way that society was, whether it was a society of cavemen or a society of medieval, that people take for granted. So I think to bring this back into context, on a spiritual path, we want to appreciate and we want to show gratitude for all the blessings that we have, and we try to do that as a practice. And even those of us that practice to do that still take a lot of things for granted. So I think what we're trying to say is slow down. Again, the number one philosophy in spirituality is live in the moment. And appreciate and recognize. I love that word.
Yeah, recognize. And the way that you can recognize is actually to create an affirmation for yourself in the morning. We've talked about appreciation rampages and gratitude rampages in the morning, and Larry has shared on more than one occasion about his connection, and that he drives in the car and makes a connection, and many of us have spiritual practices of our own. But actually focusing in just for a week, just try this for a week, on an affirmation saying, today I will appreciate everything that is around me. I will appreciate those that are in my life, and the roof over my head, and the food in my refrigerator when I reach in, that it's there, and the water that's coming out of my faucet, and actually create some small affirmation for yourself, so that you can start becoming more conscious and recognizing maybe some of those things that you have been taking for granted in your life.
Absolutely, and I think that once we do that, our gratitude grows, because now we're conscious, because of the word Sharon used. We recognize these things, we're now conscious of them, and now we can move them from something that we take for granted to something that we show appreciation for, and have all of that. And that's the crux of really what we're talking about, is not taking these things for granted, recognizing them, and being grateful for them.
I mean, last night, when I walked around the corner of my couch and my little toe got stuck on the side of the couch, and I walked by and I looked down at it, and it was sticking out sideways, which I don't have the most attractive feet in my opinion, but definitely my toe shouldn't have been sticking out sideways. I thought for a moment it could possibly be broken. And again, we take things for granted. So what I did is I moved my toes around, and I was able to do that. So I was grateful in that moment that, okay, this hurts. I know there's going to be a problem here. It's not like a little teeny thing. But I'm grateful that it's not broken, and that I know it had something to do with the tendons. But really, I'm really grateful for that moment, because it made me stop and actually think about, like, how cool my feet are. Not that they're attractive, because they're not, but how cool they are. And in that moment, it made me think about, where have I been? Where have I been? And where am I going?
And I'm grateful that I didn't pass out while she was describing that to you.
Oh.
But yes, let's take all of these. Let's recognize the gifts in our lives. Let's move them from the category of taking them for granted to recognizing them, to appreciation and being grateful for them.
Yeah. So, it goes hand in hand with what we always say and how we always like to end the show, that, to remember that there is always a positive side.
See you next time.
Bye.